Yes, you have to, because the reason why we have to be providing the report how many persons are in shelters. And when they break down the shelters, like public shelters, private shelters, and they need to know that information. Because what if, after a week, you could no longer cover any person? Alright? And then on top of that, why it's also important? In principle, once you have turned your into a shelter, if there is a big supply being distributed to help persons who are displaced, then those in your in there supposed to also be getting some assistance. If you are the one providing all the food to cook. Alright? And you need to let them know, so eventually at least when things are dropping on you say, well, okay, let me assist Sister Diane, let me assist Miss Glory, let me assist Miss Peter, because they have 10 persons in their house. And after I know there are a lot of persons, who in Carrick, and in Carrick, for instance, because most of the schools were down, so one of the homes that stood up had a lot of people in them. And it was a strain on them because this one person lost everything. And because your house is up and you live in there, they expect you to feed them. And it's definitely going to be a strain on them. Not only just to feed, but even for hygiene purposes. Water, which is a scarcity. Water. Alright? So at least the national system could know this house has 15 persons in it, so they would need water. Because your house won't be catered for water for your immediate family or for your own. So that's why it's important if persons end up in a place as a shelter, report it to the system so at least they capture it in and they know. And you know, let me just say this as we are on the civil service. You ought to be wise when you're taking persons into your house for shelter. Yes, you have to be nice, but you have to be wise. Because you have to set boundaries in your home. Not because you are taking persons in, they are not in their house. This is still your house. Is that okay? So you have to set rules and boundaries clearly. Because all that your privacy, remember we said that a shelter is a private place, right? You do not want persons to invade beyond what you already have. We good? The district committee. Yeah, we will provide the information. Yes, yes. So once you put it, we'll get a list of the persons in the district, and we're going to share that. Or you have stuff for this, so at least you know. I don't this woman stuff, but she's trying to share with this. And we need to know who is the sheriff of managers and stuff, so you can this kind. And then that's when we got to show that. Yes. Okay? Great. You guys say anything? Back. That's why I said you have to be nice, but wisdom have to prevail. So based on facts, I like to do this thing. And this is personal advice. This is not book stuff. That's right. The storm is hitting and 20 close house. The doors fall disabled and they come in. Now you must determine in the heat of the day, yes, you everybody shelter while the elements are passing. But after, you are the ones to sprint to decide who remains in your place. And you set your rules. I can only accommodate 3 persons. If you know persons that are starving and they already come drunk, you know clearly my Sabbath, no alcohol, you cannot drink alcohol and you're not coming in my house drunk. You know folks? That's why I say you have to be nice, somebody has a reputation of you have merchants in your house, and you may have to be out, and you have to be wise. You should not take in strangers in there without ensuring that there is proper supervision in the accent. Yeah. So that's because this is your private space. So in this case, you can refer them and say, I can't accommodate you, but the school down the road or the church down there is a public shelter. Because you see, in your private shelter, the government is not going to give you police or security protection unless you are really a large number of persons there. Now they are mandated when this place becomes a shelter, activities as a shelter. Basically, they have to ensure there is security. They do have a security right? Section. So they have to make sure the security system is in place. The police will be making regular patrols, and then time back in again, people with your health. You have to report the report because it was not health issues in your place, and you report as a shelter. The medical team is now to visit you back. So we see the importance of you has the right to scream in your private residence who you take. In a public shelter, it is more challenging. So in other words, in a private home, it's not mandated to have an intake as this way. No, but you have to do it. Yeah, the individual has to do it. The individual has to do it. People need to take information. Individually, you manage it so you get it into a coming in and you ask me questions. How long you plan to be here for? I can keep for beyond a day. We good? Right? Because if you don't do that, you're going to run into major problems. Right? Step back again on first, Roger, right? Sister Charles. You said boundaries, for example, at the church. Yes. But the boundaries you set at the church has to be more in line with the government policy for churches. What, for example, you can say no smoking? Yes. Yes, you could. It's a no smoking zone. Yes. Whichever shelter it is, whether it's at the church, it's a no smoking zone. Because one is a fire hazard, two is a health hazard. So could we take drugs? Drugs? Drugs. So once if it was from during the event, you have to take them in, like during the summer, right? Because you want to be that obligation. But, and that's what security is important. If they act on that you're straight, you call the authorities after you're straight. If they come to the shelter now, and that's why when a warning is issued, there should also be together with the warning, they don't do it much. But when once that exactly is pending, alcohol use and things like that has to be supposed to be controlled. Right? So you have to think. After the event, I see on your head. No, right? After the event, you set your boundaries and your rules clearly, and first told you cannot come to the shelter drunk, you cannot come drunk. If you come to the shelter because the storm is over, the storm is over. Storm pass. Right? So if you go to work and wherever it is and you come back to the shelter drunk, you will refuse entry. You could refuse entry in a public shelter because the safety and security of the other shelters is important. So that's what I'm saying. It's some strong decisions to make, right? And you have to be able to do that. Yes. So that's why there's a security. When you show there's a security checkpoint. Yes, there's a security checkpoint at the shelter. So everybody coming in, they submit to search. If they hide coming in, they can put on the shelter. Yes, because the safety of the other residents, other shelters is a concern. And they want to sure. Yes. Anybody have something? Not going upstairs. The only entire going right here. For me, it's just I don't know upstairs right here. So you like to set someone. So if you have it upstairs, the boundary could be with everybody's set here in the living room. Yeah, so I think we need to make that clear. So you said that's your house. Because remember earlier we said all you want to provide for them a safe space from the elements, food, hygiene, and they have to also. That's why it's advised you have to last for the first 3 days, and that's why we say you make sure you report so at least it will become a strain on you. Because I'll tell you one of the things that usually happens. In church, when especially private, they have to do public churches and private churches. Persons living in the daytime is a glory. They go to college, they renew supplies, and they come back and they hide inside the house. When time for cooking, they wouldn't say, well, I get some rice, I get some flour. Because they expect you to die to spend what to use, what to happen. So they store them for when you have the house. And they store you inside the house. No, we've had that situation. Even in public shelters, persons go out, they collect it, they come and they are connected, and they expect the shelter as provided for them. You take the only one is while doing while doing exercise, I'm saying in a while and doing exercise. I actually have some thoughts on things that we need to do in a while, you know what? Yes, I was asking about the food supply you have to have for person on a daily basis in case of uncomfortable. So persons that are going into the shelter, they should also have the food supply for 3 days. So if they end up in my home, then they should have something they're able to contribute towards the food and stuff. So that's what happened. They came to your house before the event. But what I'm trying to ask is that a lot of persons don't go to the shelters before the start. But when the house smash up and you lose everything, so that's when they come. And at that time, whatever they had in the house got wet or blown away. So they come to the shelters basically they had it. You see, if you move into the shelters before, you could move with your 3 days supply. But that's why it's important also. Your 3 days supply that you have when there's a pending disaster, you must store it in containers that are not easily wet. You can't put your food stuff in a bag. Even a bag, you have to make sure it's tied properly in plastic. Get some, get buckets. And put it in buckets so at least even if the building falls, your buckets is staying safe. You making some sense? So at least your building fall, the bucket might roll a little way, you find it all on the road. And if you to hold your bucket, so you come in like this, you say, look, that will do some like that in 2 days. Because when you move to somebody's house as a shelter, even a public shelter, you don't want to become a burden more to the person. Your very presence there already is a challenge to the person. Because they're taking a stranger in your house, or strangers. After put Ivan and bury the house, it had 20, 30 persons in it. It's way beyond the capacity. Right? So often the home spaces, they come and empty. And not they come and empty, they are supposed to supermarket or go in the line and get 15, 20 persons in there. So these are things you have to be mindful of. Yes. Yes, so secure your pack your stuff, don't put it in bags. Get some buckets and put it in and seal the box with covers. So at least, if water enters your place, your stuff don't spoil. On the right, our sister Jerry Glory said, those plastic barrels, those short, and right, and that's really good. And then the community shelters, right, or collective shelters, like I said, community centers, schools, religious buildings, stadium, property. So the church here basically is going to be a community shelter. All right. Great. Yes. Thank you very much. And that's why we're going to do one exercise we're going to do this afternoon is actually take a walk on this rumba in a while, all right? Right, so we're going to do two more slides and we're going to take a break. What you mean? Huh? Right. All right, so we're going to take a little break. And while we take the break, there's not much to us, right? Right? I'm actually going to give us an assignment when we take the break. So when you come back in here, we have to come. So, right? So the management shelter, the shelter, it provides the emergency shelter to affected persons as well as transitional shelter to give survival, safety and protection so the displaced persons can recover as quickly as possible and rebuild their livelihood. Right? When we talk about advantages and disadvantages in our shelters, we basically went through already. And that's why it's important. When you have to make a decision to use your house as a shelter, let me just say this, I'm being trying and frank. If public shelters are damaged, government may be able to replace those. But private shelters, you're not guaranteed if it will damage your pipe. You are not guaranteed redress from government unless you have pointed out to them and they already approve you to provide as a shelter. But basically, the responsibility for any damage or repair would rest more on you to develop a process calculated from government. That's why I say you have to be very wise. And as Sister Gloria was asking, you've got to screen who you come into your place. Sorry for saying that, but that's got to be nice, but be very cautious of that, all right? And so legal needs are available in a public one, but usually damage and needs assessment is overlooked in the safer shelters. Again, health conditions, the medical team is going to be visiting the public health center, the public shelters. But if they don't know you have 20, 30% there, they will not be coming to your place. All right? Um, Logistics and organizational problem, that is yours to handle. And what's going to happen is at a public shelter, there's a team of persons managing a public shelter. But in your own house, you have to manage. And you already have your day-to-day runnings to be able to manage. So be mindful of that additional responsibility and ask yourself, how long am I prepared to handle that for? So you need to set the boundaries and say to the folks, listen, I can house you here for the next 3 days. But after the 3 days, you have to go to the public shelters. And any other help I can give, I will. We making some sense? Yes, you stand up front. So in the first 2 or 3 days, but don't commit yourself, unless it's family members or friends, don't commit yourself to long-term sheltering versus unless you know that there is some needs of support that you need to get from that. Making it clear? With family, as I said, and close friends is different. But the general public, don't, because persons can be stuck in shelters for a month, 2 months, and more. That's still the shelters you can. And this is something you have to be mindful of as bishops and teachers, right? Me, I'm going to take a break. So while the children are going, I'm going to assign a task. We're going to pause a while on the presentation. Right. Let me just finish that. Right. I know how much of that slide is, but let me finish the slide, and then I'm going to assign a task for us. Right. So still looking at the advantages. We come to the advantages first. Version. Right. Right. Okay. Right. So again, the last one. When you take persons in your single house, it affects or alters the lifestyle of your host family. No privacy.